Let us know in the comments before or after. Hi everyone, welcome to this new video where we are going to do a small makeover using some new plants in this beautiful Aquascape Line 90. This was aquascaped around 6 months ago for my friend and client Lawrence. There's a few minor issues with some of the plants, nothing major. Basically, Lawrence is fed up with trimming the stems. We'll replace them with some slower growing stuff. We're going to tidy up some of the bits in the foreground. There's some bits of algae that we can get rid of. Just a general kind of big maintenance session. So take you through the whole process. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to have good fun. Mainly we're going to remove all of the stem plants in the background and then replace them with some slower growing species. Thin out some of the ferns. We can see some of the die off on the leaves there. Some Monte Carlo to replace where there's some little bit of algae. There's some little bit of algae building up on the hairgrass. We can get rid of that as well. Clean the rocks as such. And then we do have some beautiful bucophalandras to insert in between the stones and the woodwork. We also have some beautiful crypts, which we'll show you later. The idea is basically to make this lower maintenance, but equally as impactful. I think you'll all agree that it does look absolutely beautiful already, and Lawrence has done a great job at maintaining it over the last 6 months or so. But as with all aquascapes, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to learn, try out new plants, try out new ideas. And I think that's half the fun with this beautiful hobby. Okay, first job, we're going to remove all of the background stem plants. So we have some Rotala orange juice, I think this is, on the left, some Ludwigia palustris in the centre, and then Hygrophila coriambosa siamensis 53B on the right. So I'm literally going to almost just pull it all out. In fact, in my first job, get rid of all this frog bit, I think. So the frog bit is great for the beginning, especially at the beginning of an aquascape when you first set it up to help with algae control. It shades the light, of course. It grows very quickly to remove any excess nutrients. But once the tank's established, there's no actual requirement for it really, and it does, you know, it doesn't look so attractive in a sort of really high-end nature aquarium, I would suggest. So we're going to cause quite a lot of mess now because there's soil obviously underneath the stems. The last thing we do as part of this process is to do a huge water change. So these stem plants are basically aquatic weeds, and in nature they're designed to grow really fast and kind of dominate the area. So it's no surprise that they grow so quickly in our aquarium when we're using so much light, nutrients and CO2. It does get to a point where unless you really like your gardening and like trimming plants all the time, it's nice to be able to swap them out for something a bit more sustainable and slower growing, which is what we'll be doing later. So moving on to the Ludwigia. And this is an interesting plant. It does go red very easily, but the growth pattern is a little bit chaotic. It sends out side shoots and doesn't look quite so kind of neat as many stem plants, which is okay if you want to fill up a background really quickly and have high impact. It's a perfect plant. Very easy, very fast growing. Yeah, that root structure is incredible. I think, do you know what I'm going to do? Is actually just cut right down to the soil and let the roots just decompose in the soil, and that's going to actually add to the nutrient content of the soil. And the soil is really good because it's got what we call a high cation exchange capacity, so it has the ability to actually hold in nutrients, and it makes those nutrients available to the, you know, to the plants. Okay, obviously we've created a lot of mess. There's a lot of cloudy water, of course, but we have removed all of the plants that either need removing permanently or need attention in terms of preparing them ready to be replanted. I think we're going to probably not use any of the stem plants. We'll have a think about after we've planted the fresh plants. But yeah, you can see obviously there's a bit of a devastation, but this will clear it up pretty soon by the Biomaster 850. Okay, next job is going to be cleaning these rocks around the front here. And then I've already turned over these rocks on the side, and underneath is obviously covered in algae, but when you upturn them, it's absolutely fresh. So that's a top tip. So we'll use a ADA brush now, which is a really great brush with stiff bristles, just to clean that stubborn algae off the stones, give it a fresh new look. So we've tidied up all of the plants that we don't want. We've removed all that. We've actually tidied up a little bit around the foreground, the cosmetic sand. We've actually got some new gravels and sand that we can just add a top layer on at the end just to give it a final touch. Clean the rocks. Now it's time to plant our foreground plants and epiphyte plants. So starting off with our foreground, this is Cryptocoryne parva. This is Tropica 1-2 Grow, which I've pre-prepared. This is actually going to replace the Eleocharis mini, which did look good, but it was coming a little bit matted with hair algae, and Lawrence and I agreed it would be a good idea to have something a bit slower growing and more sustainable. So we've replaced the hair grass with the Crypt parva. Moving on to this beautiful Bucophilandra Serimbu Brown from Denelay. There's 3 pots of that, and I think we've used 3 pots of the Crypt parva. And then finally we've got some good old Monte Carlo, which is going to replace the old Monte Carlo, which again had a little bit of algae infestation. So that's going to be just wedged in various places and again used as an epiphyte plant. So we'll get all those planted and then we can move on to our background plants now. We have Myriophyllum Guyana. This is a Tropica 1-2 Grow, 1 pot divided into probably 20 or so portions. That's going to go to the right hand side of this large crypt here. And then to the right of that, we've got a mixture of Cryptocoryne balansae and this stunning plant, which has been kindly donated by Dave from Aquarium Gardens. This is mature Cryptocoryne spiralis red. I'm actually going to mix them up kind of deliberately, randomly along the back, and then the textures and the colours are just going to look really natural mixed together. If we just had a block of red and then a block of green, it's not going to look so natural. I'm not 100% sure the Myriophyllum will grow so well because it will be slightly shaded by the adjacent crypts, but it's worth a try. It is a stem plant that Lawrence is really keen to try out, so that's why we're using it right now. So yes, Myriophyllum Guyana, it's a very feathery, delicate plant. It's in obviously 1-2 Grow cup, so it's tiny at the moment. It's basically a baby plant, but it will appreciate the good lighting that we've got and the nutrient-rich soil, of course, and liquid fertilizers and CO2. So we are, optimized for success. It's just a question of really it's just a test and learn, really. I've only ever grown it once in my home aquascape, so I'm actually not that experienced with it. But we saw it at Dave's, didn't we, in Aquarium Gardens in the big 1500, and it looked amazing. You normally find stem plants in particular from the 1-2 Grows look a little bit deformed, a little bit straggly and a little bit untidy. That's because they're basically growing in a very constricted area. But in good conditions, they'll straighten out towards the light just in 24 hours or so. And you can normally see growth within a few days, depending on the species. But stem plants in general are relatively fast growing, so hopefully we'll see some good results. It is important to stop the plants from drying out, especially if they've been grown underwater. And don't be shy about pushing the plant quite far into the soil so it grips firmly. It's quite amazing how many plants you get out of one pot. It's probably over 200 stems altogether. Now time to plant the crypts. So the crypts are going to run all the way along from like 1/3 of the way along here, all the way along to the back right. And then, as I said, I'm just going to plant them kind of intermittently, each species. This has been grown submersed, so this has been grown underwater. So this will hopefully adapt quite well to Lawrence's tank. I mean, there is always a risk with crypts that you'll get crypt melt. Did you ever see that before? And did you ever get any leaves melting? No. That's good. Because these have been grown in probably slightly different conditions to what this tank is. Yeah. Sometimes they can struggle to adapt. They've shed their leaves, but if the rootstock's healthy, it will just send out new leaves quite soon afterwards. So don't panic. So we're fully planted now. Next job is to clean the filter. We're actually going to swap the inlet and the outlet around. So we have a better kind of circulatory flow pattern around the aquarium, and that's going to blow the crypts over this way, which I think is going to really suit the whole layout. So yeah, next job will be to disconnect the hoses, glassware, give that all a good clean, take the filter out, give the pre-filter a clean, actually give the whole canister, the sponges inside a clean. It's been 6 months, it'd be interesting to see how much waste has accumulated in the main canister. Okay, so we've cleaned the filter, the pre-filter and the internals. The internals are almost completely clean, so that's really cool. We cleaned the glassware and we've actually reconfigured it. So before the outlet was kind of in the centre, towards going front and back. Now it's all the way to the rear and the inlet is right next to that, and hopefully that's going to encourage a really nice circular flow called a gyre effect. And then that's going to blow the crypts across the scape, really look great. And hopefully those crypts aren't going to block the flow too much. It is a powerful filter, so I'm sure it's going to be okay. And now we are just filling up directly from Lawrence's tap, all the way through, temperature corrected of course, up into our special device here, which prevents the water from flowing directly downwards. It's a really cool thing here. Talked about this a few times recently. So we wait for that to fill up, at least past the inlets there of the filter, the glassware there, then we can start priming the filter, and then we're almost ready. I'm just going to now do a little bit of more kind of fine decoration work around the stones at the front, just to add a bit more of a natural texture. But yeah, really happy with the result so far. Can't wait for it to be filled up. There we go, the tank is made over, topped up with fresh dechlorinated water at the right temperature. You can see it's obviously transformed quite considerably compared to the before shots, which I'll overlay right now. Obviously some growing in to do. The crypts at the back, they'll fill out considerably, they become more dense, but you can already see the effect that we're going for with the arching leaves in the background, really swaying beautifully in the flow. The actual whole circulation pattern is much improved now with the positioning of the outlet and inlet in the corner. So you can actually see how the leaves are actually all blowing in the breeze all the way to the edges of the tank, which indicates really good circulation. So the CO2 is hopefully going to reach all the way around the tank relatively equally, hopefully resulting in really great plant growth. There is a minor risk of some crypt melt, which we talked about earlier. I just advise Lawrence not to panic. Just remove any of the unhealthiest leaves from the rootstock if possible, and that will allow new leaf growth, no problem. But hopefully they'll adapt, because we've got great light. This is the Twinstar 900S. Great substrate, we've got Tropica soil with ADA Amazonia and also ADA Power Sand. Beautiful cosmetic gravel at the front here. Just refresh that a little bit and just check out how many shrimps are out and about. Absolutely, literally hundreds of them, I think. Got some new crypts in the foreground there, the Monte Carlo, the beautiful new Bucophilandras, some more graded gravels that you can see just there. And I'm sure Lawrence is going to enjoy the next 6 months with this Aquascape. I look forward to seeing it mature again. So it just shows you guys that you can relatively easily make over a tank with a few new plant species, a bit of TLC. You know, obviously we caused quite a lot of devastation at the beginning, but it doesn't take long to turn it around. Got powerful filtration, big water change, just a little bit of patience. Don't rush these things. You know, it's a beautiful hobby designed to teach you some patience and just enjoy the process. So thanks for watching everyone. Thanks so much to Lawrence for inviting me again to work on his beautiful aquarium. Thanks to Aquarium Gardens for supporting this project with the beautiful crypt spirals red in particular. Here's an idea of how much plant mass we removed. It's literally a bucket almost full of the old stems and all the plants that we got rid of. It just shows, you know, when you've got a really good system, high energy system, good CO2, good light, how quickly these plants grow. And, you know, that's one of the benefits, I guess, to having a high energy system, but it is a little bit more maintenance, and that's what you should be prepared for if you do want to grow an aquarium like this at this level. It does take some maintenance, but maintenance is part of the joy. I would suggest if you don't enjoy maintenance, then you're not going to enjoy this kind of hobby. Just stems are a little bit of a pain in the aren't they, to maintain in the long term, and that's why we swap them out for the crypts. Okay, take care everyone. See you in the next one. Cheerio.